Good afternoon. I'm Vanessa Maria Graber, and you're listening to the People Power Lunch Hour here on PhillyCam. We are broadcasting live from PhillyCam TV studios and radio studios here in Center City. On today's show, we are going to be talking about World AIDS Day and highlighting a local organization that has been involved in the fight supporting people with HIV for many, many years. That's Philadelphia Fight. And they have been providing primary care, consumer education, advocacy, and research on potential treatments and vaccines since the 1990s. We'll speak with Jeffrey Haskins, who's a Project Teach instructor, and China White, a Project Teach peer educator. We'll talk about all that and more on this edition of the People Power Lunch Hour. Our show is produced by PhillyCam here at our studios, and we highlight social movements, local organizing, nonprofit organizations, and more. We hope you'll stay with us and listen to the show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the People Power Lunch Hour show. Again, I'm your host, Vanessa Maria Graber. And in honor of World AIDS Day, which is Friday, December 1st, we are featuring two organizers with Philadelphia Fight. They are a community, Philadelphia Fight is a community health center providing culturally competent, comprehensive primary care and state-of-the-art HIV primary care to low-income members of the community, along with research, consumer education, advocacy, social services, and outreach to people living with HIV and those who are at high risk, including family members, communities with high rates of HIV, formerly incarcerated persons, and young people at risk, and access to the most advanced clinical research in HIV treatment and prevention. Philadelphia Fight serves some of the city's most marginalized and disenfranchised individuals. Annually, they provide direct services to more than 8,000 people and assist approximately 10,000 people through community outreach. There is a really great program through Philadelphia Fight called Project Teach, which stands for Treatment Education Activists Combating HIV, and it recently celebrated its 20th anniversary in 2016. Their signature health and education empowerment program provides life-saving, life-affirming services to many, many patients here in the area living with HIV. It's an innovative health education program that trains people living with HIV or AIDS to act as peer educators, activists, and activists in underserved communities hardest hit by the AIDS pandemic. Teach focuses on prevention, treatment, education, outreach, and advocacy. And so we're here today with two people who work for Philadelphia Fight, who have been long involved in the movement for HIV/AIDS, and that we have with us Jeffrey Haskins, who's a Project Teach instructor, and China White, who is a Project Teach peer educator. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to move your microphones a little closer so we can hear what you're saying. So we'll start with you, Jeffrey. You mentioned in the lobby that you've been involved in this movement for many, many years. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with Philadelphia Fight, and how you came to be a Project Teach instructor.
Okay. I started with Philadelphia Fight sort of with the AmeriCorps program. While I was still in school and studying and first moving to Philadelphia. And so I was the Project Teach class assistant, started like in 2008, and learned to work with people in the classroom and in the community. And then I took Project Teach, so I'm a graduate of Project Teach. I also took Faithful Teach. We have several different teachers. And then I got involved. I became a recovery counselor at another agency and worked with getting people from that agency to be in both Teach Outside, which is for formerly incarcerated persons, and the Project Teach, the Women's Teach, the Faithful Teach, the different teachers. And so then there was, one of the instructors was leaving the agency, and my name kind of came up, and somebody said, you should apply. And I said, okay, I'm going to apply. And when I applied, I went through a process with other candidates, and then I was chosen to be the project teach lead instructor. And I've been doing that for about a year now.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
China, tell us a little bit about how you became a Project Teach peer educator and what that role means.
Okay, and approximately 3 years ago, I was homeless. I was living in a homeless shelter, and I'm also HIV positive for many years. And my counselor at this particular shelter was aware of that, and she kept encouraging me to come to Philadelphia Fight because she said they do everything there. So originally, I came to go to a what do you call it? Like a support group. Okay, it's my first time in the support group, and I went to the support group, and it was very helpful for me. So I decided to enroll in the Teach course at Philadelphia Fight, which I did, which is what qualifies me to do the job that I do now as a peer educator. They teach you all about HIV and other STDs and etc. So I took that particular course and I liked it. And afterwards, I had the opportunity to become a peer educator. So maybe about a year and a half later, I became a peer educator, and that's what I've been doing since. And so what we do as peer educators is we go out into the community. We go to hospitals, we go to recovery centers, we go to homeless shelters, etc. And we teach people about health-related issues, specifically sexual health issues. And so it's a very rewarding job. We get to tell people our personal stories and give them a special insight into what it means to be HIV positive and how important it is to be tested and to prevent yourself from getting HIV if you do not already have it. So that's what we do.
I love these stories of people who themselves, have been helped and then go on to help other people. When I was on the Philadelphia Fight website, they have a lot of great videos of people telling your story.
Yeah.
China, you're on there too. One thing that a lot of the people mention is this community of support. Can you talk more about the community that exists supporting other people living with HIV?
Okay.
Sure. When you're HIV positive, of course, it's common knowledge that there are millions of people in the world who have HIV. But when you're diagnosed with it, you feel as if you are the only one because the stigma of it creates such a secret world that you walk down the street and unfortunately, there's no indicator. For instance, I like to say, I wish everyone with HIV had blue ears so that when they walk down the street, I would say, wow, you're one of my people, and I could just talk to you and you would just understand. So unfortunately, we don't have that. So at Philadelphia Fight, you have so many people who are actually HIV positive, and you can just talk to them and they understand. So instead of them feeling sorry for you or you needing to explain the details that may not matter as much, like how did you get it, how long have you had it, are you still mad, da 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 da. You can just have a conversation with someone who has that shared experience, and there are so many of us there. There are so many of us there that it creates a return to a sense of normalcy. Like, yeah, I'm just another human being, and we all have the same illness, just like meeting somebody with diabetes or heart disease or whatever. And it makes it so much easier to cope with. So it's a fantastic environment, and it's actually a life-saving environment because that isolation can keep you out of care. That isolation can diminish the value of the relationships that you have with other people. It can cause severe depression, etc. And so just having that community there of people you can talk to at any time who have similar experiences as you do, it's wonderful.
I see you nodding your head in agreement, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think now that we have become, we have 4 community health centers. And so, we have the Jonathan Latz, which is for HIV positive people. And we have programs associated with that. We have a whole education department, and we have a whole prep, and we have so many departments, and kind of it grew fast in the last 5 years. But also, we have youth, YHEP Health Center. And then we have a John Bell Health Center, which is for everybody. It doesn't matter that you're HIV positive or non-HIV positive. It's just health. And health is the new thing and the new buzzword. And now we're going to open up in February the Children and Pediatric Health Center. So we're including, so there's a sense of family, which is this movement. And the family consensus is that we all come with something and we all have something to share. And I think that I'm part of the Fight family, and I love it. And I see it expanding and growing, but I also see it reaching into the community and being the center in the community. So we have this hope, and we have this light, and we're working toward our cure. And in our lifetime, we believe at Fight we will have a cure in our lifetime.
And in fact, many strides have been made since this movement began. And for our listeners and viewers that are aware, Philadelphia was very, very central to the fight for HIV/AIDS research and medication, clinical trials, access to healthcare, testing, et cetera. It began here in Philly, and it was a worldwide movement. And then, of course, other cities joined. But people here in West Philly, there was a lot of activists and protests and organizing. We have a very long, rich history in doing that, which has played a key role in some of the progress that we've made. Right. And Philadelphia Fight is a part of that. So again, World AIDS Day is an opportunity to raise awareness about HIV, to let people know what progress we've made, what treatment is available, what educational resources are available. So I just want to read some facts about the United States, which is that more than 1.1 million people in the U.S. are living with HIV today, and 1 in 7 don't know it. And so I think that's why testing and knowing your status plays a key part in that. An estimated 37,600 Americans became newly infected in HIV in 2014. And again, all these statistics are from the government website, hiv.gov. And this is a really great statistic from 2008 to 2014. The estimated number of annual HIV infections in the U.S. declined 18%.
Fantastic.
And it's probably still declining, right,
Yeah.
since 2014. It says the southern states bear the greatest burden of HIV, accounting for 50% of new infections in 2014. And I suspect that has a lot to do with it being the Bible Belt
Right.
and the stigma associated
Yeah.
and people
Yes,
still
absolutely.
not coming out of the closet. And so in the jurisdictions where there could be estimated, annual infections in all states decreased or remained stable from 2008 to 2014. So that means, again, we're making progress, and has a lot to do with the education we're providing people. So with that being said, let's talk about Project Teach and some of the core components of that program. I took the first chapter test online, which was all about, I think it's assurance or adherence.
Adherence, right. Adherence, which is very important.
Yes.
Yeah, and I could relate because, I am very bad at taking vitamins and other things that you're supposed to take
Right.
every day. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about Project Teach and its format and its core values. There's 16 core values, and it starts out with HIV. The difference between HIV and AIDS. There is definitely a difference. People are living now. AIDS used to be the death sentence, and back in the 80s, people were dying. There were no medicines being developed. There was the advocates that act up. It was act up, fight back, fight AIDS. And the only chapter that's really viable today of all the act up chapters is right here in Philadelphia. It meets on Monday night. So the advocates and the advocacy that we've done, this work, started Project Teach because we needed to educate people about what the virus was and how they could live with it. And now that it's a chronic illness, and now that we have medications, we had to literally fight the Reagan administration, the Bush administration to get that medicine. and we had to do some demonstrations. And we even have to go to Washington today and do some demonstrations. So my Project Teach class will be on the bus Tuesday, December 5th, going to Washington, D.C. because of the tax bill and the Dreamers and all of the issues wrapped up. And the fact that they're trying to, take away 13 million people's health care, which is in this tax bill. So we still have to fight. And we still are doing that. But Project Teach core values, it's not just about HIV and AIDS. It's also about health. There are other issues. We have people suffering with diabetes, high blood pressure, everything. And as a community health center, we have to cover it from A to Z. And so Teach has been able to be like a one-stop shop and educate people on all issues, including activism, including financial literacy, including how to deal with being in a community leadership, and those courses it rounds the whole individual so that they can manage their life. And I think that's the greatest thing. I know as a graduate, my life has been managed. When I came to fight, I came thinking I would die. And then by going through Teach and being involved with Teach, I know I'm living the best life right now.
I see China nodding in agreement, especially about the part about managing your life. Did you feel it helped you as well?
Yes, it definitely did. I can say that I was HIV positive for several years without taking any medication because I was diagnosed in the early 90s. And at that time, the medications were not nearly as effective as they are today. And I was afraid, quite frankly, that what they had, the AZT, would kill me. And so I didn't take it. And also I didn't discuss it with the new doctors that I had. So because of the stigma, I didn't know about the advances in HIV. I didn't know that if you're HIV positive, you could still have a normal sex life. You could still have children. Just all of these things I didn't know. I didn't know that you could become undetectable if you adhere to your medication, things of that nature. And so coming to Philadelphia Fight and coming to the class actually taught me so many things about myself that I actually needed to know that improved my overall quality of life. So the program itself is extremely important. And as Jeff mentioned earlier, we have several divisions of the TEACH program. Okay, and that's because we want to teach everyone, as many people as we can, okay, in every community about HIV so they can teach their peers, so that they can teach their family members, so that they can teach their community, okay? It's so important. And so whether you have been incarcerated, or you were a sex worker, or you were a college graduate and you're middle class and you're afraid what your friends and family are going to think, all that kind of stuff. We want everyone from everywhere to be able to reach the people they're comfortable with. Okay, so if you're a woman and you only feel comfortable teaching other women, we have Women's Teach, right? If you're in the church and you want to know how to approach people, within your faith community about that, we have Faith Teach. We have Faithful Teach. If you've been incarcerated, whatever, we want everyone to know, everyone to be able to reach out. And as students of Project Teach, we actually make a vow to go out and teach others. Okay, so when you have this education, when people feel comfortable in talking to you, it helps to diminish the stigma of the illness itself. It helps to encourage people to go out and get tested and know that if you happen to be tested positive, this is something you can manage. This is something you can live with. This is something you can actually thrive with. Okay, it's very important that everyone knows that. And so many people who were alive in the 80s, the image of AIDS at that time is still stuck in their mind. If you adhere to your medication, you never have to develop AIDS. That never has to be a problem for you. You can become undetectable, which means you cannot transmit the virus to other people. And so it isn't common knowledge. I mean, we teach people about things like PrEP, that if you are HIV negative, you do not have HIV, and you want to protect yourself from getting it, there's a medication you could take, PrEP, that can prevent the virus from being transmitted to you. Because since so many people are afraid to get tested, okay, someone could very unintentionally pass it on to you so you can protect yourself from that. And so there are just so many wonderful things to learn and take advantage of. At Philadelphia Fight, I'm eternally grateful to have come into this community.
And PrEP is like a vaccine, right? It's a medication that you could take to prevent.
It's Truvada, which is one of the HIV medications that were in the treatment regimens for people. I took Truvada, and we found out that Truvada, which is by Gilead Pharmaceuticals, really lowers the viral load in people and raises people's T cells, which are their helper cells to help their immune system fight the virus. And so they were scientists and research. That's why we have to do it. That's why we have to do the critical, the clinical trials. We got to be in it so that we know what works. And that now, that if people get that, if people be exposed to the virus, they can get on PrEP. And PrEP is not like a one magical pill. That's a misnomer. We got to really say PrEP, it takes a while to get in your body. It takes a while to be there. And also, we need to still practice with condom use. PrEP is not going to kill the virus. I mean, it will kill the virus. It will stop it. But PrEP will not stop the STIs. It will not stop the herpes. And it will not stop other things from getting into our body.
Pregnancy,
yes, pregnancy. I mean,
Yes.
especially for the 13 to 30-year-olds that are now we're seeing getting newly diagnosed because they don't have the education. And so we're going into the schools. We now have our youth teach is an important teach because we just went into the school system the other day. And actually yesterday, today, and tomorrow we'll be doing presentations as part of World AIDS Day. So we're starting to reach that high level population that is getting infected.
who's most vulnerable in Philadelphia for getting or contracting HIV?
Well, that would be our youth population. They have the highest numbers now, and also we have our seniors who sort of are being sexually active in some of our senior housing. We have a other blue pill, the
Yes.
that enhances sexual activity, and so people have we need to educate. So our 50 plus population now, who knew the information or may not know the information, but we thought we taught the information. I'm 62, so I'm in that generation. So I thought my generation, that's where we started to see the decline. But then now with some other activities, we start to see increases. So it's kind of going from young to old. And we still have our MSMs, men who sleep with men, basically because of the stigma and things around homosexuality behavior. People are stigmatizing them, and they are not coming out of their closets and saying, I am, and that I need help. And they're not coming to our health centers as much as we need to. So it's vital for us to outreach and to start targeting as we go into our strategic planning in the month of December, how we will in 2018 increase our viability and our information and getting it out to our communities. And our motto is teach one, teach 10. That's what we do.
If you're just tuning in to WPPM 106.5 FM or watching on Philly Cam TV, you're tuned in to the People Power Lunch Hour show. I'm Vanessa Maria Graber, and I've been having a conversation with Jeffrey Haskins, who's a Project Teach instructor, and China White, who's a Project Teach peer educator. They both work with Philadelphia Fight, which is a nonprofit organization here in Philadelphia that's been providing primary care, consumer education, advocacy, and research on potential treatments and vaccines for HIV. We've been talking about all of this ahead of World AIDS Day, which is on December 1st. So I'm going to read a couple of facts and information about World AIDS Day if you're unfamiliar with it. It takes place on December 1st each year, and it's an opportunity for people worldwide to unite in the fight against HIV, to show support for people living with HIV, and to commemorate those who have died from an AIDS-related illness. It was founded in 1988, and it's the first ever global health day. And so we're trying to raise awareness here at PhillyCam and let our listeners and viewers know that there is a whole community of support and many, many organizations that are here to help you and provide education and treatment for you if you are somebody who is been diagnosed with HIV, or somebody who is a family member or relative, somebody who's supporting someone else. So I wanted to ask you about that. Who's eligible for this program? Is it free? Who are the types of people that can enroll in it?
Can you see the excitement in my face?
That's right.
China, I'll ask you this question.
Yes, she's got it.
Yes. So it's absolutely free, and it's free to everyone. And even if you do not have HIV, and you want to support someone who is affected by the virus, certainly we have a class for you as well. So you don't have to be HIV positive to come down to Philadelphia Fight and learn all that we have to teach you. And you will be surprised at all the great news that you'll receive. I mean, really wonderful, uplifting news. You walk into the door feeling one way about somebody being HIV positive, and when you leave, you are so enlightened that you glow. So, yes.
And that's the frontline teach, which is for people who are affected by their caregivers, partners, family members, even physicians, because some people, unless you're an HIV specialist doctor, you may or may not know, and so we will train and do that for people. And so that means that becomes the whole community intervention and model so that we address it. And then I think when the peer educators go into those community settings, that is a lot of getting the information out. We also have our Teach alumni, and we have alumni events, and alumni are people that also talk in our communities. They're talking at their family dinner tables. They're talking with their friends and their buddies. They're talking through the sports game. They get it in, about information. If somebody says something that's not correct, they're able to just make a correction, not with a judgment or a value, but just about educating. And so constant education is continuing, and that's been the thing that has made this program such a success.
Wonderful. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more with Jeffrey Haskins, Project Teach instructor, and China White, who's a Project Teach peer educator. You can find more information about Philadelphia Fight at fight.org. You've been listening to the People Power Lunch Hour on PhillyCam and WPPM LP. We'll be right back. Hello, you're listening to WPPM FM on 106.5. And if you enjoy the educational community grassroots programming that you've been hearing, we urge you to support PhillyCam during our fall fund drive. We are accepting donations all through this week, and you can make a donation online at www.phillycam.org. PhillyCam supports programs like the People Power Lunch Hour, where we invite community members, people from nonprofit organizations, and other organizers from the community to talk about their work and offer solutions to a lot of the social issues that people care about here in Philadelphia and Camden. All of the shows produced live here in the studio are done by community members who are volunteers for our non-commercial educational radio station. Again, if you are enjoying the program and like to hear more of it, please make your donation today at phillycam.org. We'll be right back in a few minutes and return to the People Power Lunch Hour show. Again, thanks for listening and watching. Welcome back to the People Power Lunch Hour Show. I'm your host, Vanessa Maria Graber, and today we're doing a show for World AIDS Day, which is on December 1st, because we'd like to raise awareness about all of the resources and educational opportunities that exist here in Philadelphia for people who are living with HIV. I'm joined in the studio by our two special guests, Jeffrey Haskins, who's a Project Teach instructor, and China White, who's a Project Teach peer educator. They're both with Philadelphia Fight, which is a nonprofit organization here in Philadelphia that has been providing primary care, consumer education, advocacy, and research on potential treatments and vaccines for HIV since 1990. So we were talking a little bit about Project Teach and some of the core values that you offer in the program and all the different variations. Again, there are many different versions of Project Teach for different populations, and there's even one that's offered in Spanish as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Latino Teach.
Para ustedes
Yes.
en la comunidad latino también pueden participar en Project Teach porque ofrecen clases en español.
Sí.
Sometimes we have some bilingual programming here on PhillyCam. So I wanted to talk about treatment. A lot has evolved over the years in terms of treatment. What is a treatment regimen like today for somebody who has been newly diagnosed?
Okay. A treatment regimen today is now we have a lot of the one pill a day medicine, or anywhere from less than, some people have to take 2 or 3. The regimens, the pills now have combinations in them. That's what makes them be the one. They have 3 or 4 more medicines in them, which makes it easier than taking 4 separate pills are now combined into one pill. It started with the Atripla, and now we have Genvoya and other pills. And we have new stuff coming down the pipeline with the FDA approval. And so we'll have new medicines coming out. What it's been able to do for us is treatment now is prevention. And by making people undetectable, U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. And we have to get those things out. And PrEP keeps HIV negative people negative.
But that requires people to know their status and be
Yes.
proactive.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so, there are people in other countries who have very limited access to these drugs. They're very expensive. What's it like in the United States? Are these medications covered by Medicaid? How hard is it to afford the drugs and get access to them?
Well, I thought about this, and I wanted to make sure I stress this, that Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, and serving on the PPG of Pennsylvania, has the special benefits pharmaceutical program, which means we pay nothing for our drugs. And so it's kind of the ADAP model, assistance drug American program, that each state through Medicare can get. And it's up to the states if they want to get it. And so we've been having this battle with, like the southern states, they haven't signed on to get it. So
And states like, was it Indiana and Michael Pence?
Michael Pence State, he denied it. And so, but Governor Wolf is on for it. And also with the Philadelphia Department of Health here, ACO, we're able to get medicines. And so we have access to care. And in the United States, the advocates are still pushing. There will be a biomedical prevention conference in New Orleans, December 2nd through the 4th, that the National Minority AIDS Council is sponsoring. And advocates from around the country are coming. And it's going to be basically dealing with how do we get treatment to access to people.
Now, as part of your, treatment regimen, there's medication, but what other things do you have to do? I mean, I imagine if you have any other chronic disease or illness, you have to think about diet, exercise, healthy mind, healthy body. Is that some of the things that you try to instill in people?
Yes, I mean, certainly your overall health is crucial because when one thing you can, for instance, if you are depressed, that can affect you physically. Um, you have to take care of yourself, overall. And I can speak as a woman who's HIV positive. Women spend so much time taking care of other people, and sometimes we put ourselves last. But when you have HIV, just like with any other chronic illness, you have to take proper time for yourself. So proper nutrition, exercise, your sleep is very important, and your mental health is crucial. Your mental health is crucial. And that is an area in which a lot of people suffer because of the stigma. So we appreciate you inviting us to be featured on your show today so that we can educate the community a little bit about what we go through, the shame that we sometimes experience can be more devastating to our health than the actual HIV itself. Just the trying to keep a secret that should need to be a secret. I should be able to tell anyone, just like I'm telling you now, but this was not something I would have been comfortable doing 5 or 10 years ago, okay? And so I can say that stigma for me resulted in me developing AIDS over time because I didn't want to. I mean, there were a few people who knew, a very few select people who knew, but even the people I told encouraged me to keep it a secret. And so now I say, okay, well, if you don't want people to know, that has something to do with you, nothing to do with me, because there is a lot of power in telling someone your position, because of the people around you, you don't know what other person might be HIV positive or think they're HIV positive and will be encouraged just by hearing you say it out loud and look at you and know that you are well and happy and know that that is a possibility for them as well.
And you can't support your friend or give them a hug and be there for them
Yes.
if you don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of people out there that would want to know if their family member or loved one, was struggling with that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we have a class in Project Teach on disclosure. And when is the right time, how to do it, and it's an individual choice for everybody. Just like with any other chronic illness, you decide. I mean, when you get cancer, you really decide if you're going to tell somebody, you tell your family, because the stigma is fear, it's ignorance, and because if people are not educated, they don't know how to really deal with it. And sometimes there were family members with the shame, as China said, they would have people eat off paper plates because they would think that, you could get it from fork or stuff like that. And we often tell the story about an uncle, like somebody put a fork in the potato salad and he was like, I'm not touching the potato salad because I know you have HIV. So with that kind, we have to educate against it and say no. And we have to say the 4 ways you get it. We have to say
Can you
that.
say the 4 ways?
Yes, blood, semen, vaginal fluid, pre-cum, and breast milk. And pre-cum has to be said. So actually it's the 5 because when we just say semen and don't say pre-cum, there's still 2 parts to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But not from the potato salad.
Not from the potato salad, not from the fork. Because the virus is a weak virus, and once it gets exposed to air, it can be killed. And so that is it. That's how it has to be transmitted through those 4 ways or 5 ways, including pre-com.
And so what happens if you could just talk more about when you are undetectable? Like, what does that mean? And because, there are people, like, I think a lot of people are familiar with, like, Magic Johnson, right?
Right.
He was one of the first people,
Yes.
and people were like, how did that happen?
Right.
And they thought it was like, because he had so
insecure.
much money, or like they didn't really know how that happened.
Right.
But it's really through advances in medicine and research and all of that. So can we talk about, like, what that means exactly?
We can. It just means that the viral load so every 3 months, people that are HIV positive should go to their doctor and have their blood checked. And so when they check it, the levels of the virus is detected through the lab work. And so below 20 copies of the virus means undetectable, less than 20 copies in the blood. And so for someone like me who's been an ambivalent patient, and I'll admit that, who didn't take their medicine as prescribed and who just kind of didn't do it, my doctor said to me, "You're going to make me cry. Because in these 10 years, this is the first time you were undetectable." And it was because of Project Teach. I can't stand up there and teach and be a hypocrite and tell other people to take their medicine and I don't take mine. So that was a light bulb moment that went off for me. And it goes off for people like that because of the stories, like you said, those stories. And Project Teach did a recent story on me. So it really became real for me. It kind of was removed for a minute that, I've been getting by.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been getting by. I don't have no symptoms. I don't have nothing going on. But once now that the power is that I'm undetectable and that I can't pass the virus on to anybody, my life has opened up to a new chapter.
It's liberating.
It's liberating. I can have relationships now. For the longest time, I was scared of relationships. I was scared that I would infect somebody. I was scared I'd pass the virus on, because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. But now I can. And so now I know that and I still do the precautions to make sure that I don't pass nothing else on to people.
Yeah, that's good information to know because, again, there is still so much ignorance. People really don't know what that means. And I do think it's important if you were to meet somebody and they tell you that, right, to understand what that means and to have compassion, right? And understanding. And it's very good news. Were you also afraid to have relationships with people, when you first were diagnosed?
Yes, certainly. I was maybe celibate for maybe four consecutive years after I was diagnosed because I said, "Oh well, I've been knocked out the game. That's it. I'll just have to enjoy all the other things in my life, and that is over." And so, I went several years without medication as well. But as I said, at one point I was diagnosed with AIDS because I didn't take any medication, and I am undetectable now. So that shows you how remarkable the medication is. But I think it's very important to also say that when a person is undetectable, you are not cured. Okay, so when you're undetectable, you cannot pass the virus on to someone else, but you are not cured. So if you do not remain consistent with your medication, your viral load can go back up and you can transmit it to someone else. For me, I stopped taking medication because I was in an abusive relationship, and I stopped taking it for maybe about 6 months, and I went from being undetectable, okay, to having an AIDS status again, having a CD4 count of maybe 21, which is extremely low, okay? And when I resumed my medication, I was able to become undetectable again. And so when you speak of meeting someone and someone tells you that they are undetectable, for someone who is HIV negative, I would recommend that they would ask that person, "Hey, do you mind if I go to the doctor with you?" Because just because you were undetectable 3 months ago or 2 months ago, if there have been some issues in your life, if you have been depressed, if you're suffering from some type of substance abuse and maybe you've been using and you haven't been consistent with your medication, you may not actually be undetectable anymore, okay? And so this is something that we constantly have to reconfirm. But once you're undetectable, right, if you take your medication consistently, that will remain. It won't go up and down by chance. But we need this medication in our bodies on a daily basis to maintain that status.
So we need to maintain our access to health care.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We got to keep our appointments. We have to have a good relationship with our doctor. We have to ask questions. And we have to sort of, all the information is online with CDC and .gov and with the Philadelphia Health Department. So people can also Google anything about HIV and AIDS. And I just wanted to point out that the AIDS diagnosis comes when T cells are less than 200, or if you have an opportunistic infection. And the CDC has a whole list, about 50 different opportunistic infections. And one of them, the most common one, is like people would have thrush, which is a white powdery on their tongue, and people would see it. Or they would have sarcoidosis pneumonia, and they would have purple lesions. And you could see it was visible. But there are other OIs that are not visible that you may not see.
And so you can go to fight.org if you want to learn more about all these. I learned a lot on their website, and just by taking that first chapter of Project Teach, you don't have to have HIV in order to learn and want to know more about this and support the community. Again, knowledge is power. That's why we have this show, and I think it gave me hope as well. Like, wow, especially reading the annual report and seeing like, wow, there's so much progress that's being made. We really need to support research and advocacy. Pennsylvania has accesses because advocates, went to Harrisburg
and made noise.
and people need to advocate for themselves as well. If you are somebody that has this, you need to take part. Does Project Teach kind of teach that too, being an advocate?
Yeah, we have
having a voice.
Yeah, we have Act Up, Come and Present, and then our community leadership lesson is about being a leader in your community and about advocating for yourself. We do that because we had to advocate for ourselves. So we tell the students, we are the product that advocated, and we are, like I said, managing our lives and managing our healthcare, and we want to give that empowerment to our students and our community members through the peer education program.
Are there people that have gone through the program that have been like inspirational or success stories? I find that a lot of times when I teach, I learn so much from the students that it's like, it's reciprocal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. It is. I actually sit on a community advisory board at the University of Pennsylvania with a Teach alumni, Wahida Shabazz, and she's a fierce advocate for HIV and AIDS, and she goes all over the world to teach people about the illness and to advocate in their particular areas. As Jeff mentioned earlier, yes, we have great health care here in Pennsylvania, great coverage for the medications that we need. And I can tell you that I read all the printouts from the pharmacy, and my medication is about $3,000 a month. So, what's that, like $36,000, $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a salary. Okay, and so when you take that into consideration, just to prevent yourself from perhaps falling into poverty, okay, that's another inspiration for being tested, or if you're tested, to take your medication. We do not have equal access to these medications all over the country, okay? And so although no matter what state you're in, you can get medication, if you're somewhere where you even have to pay, say 10%, $300, how many people in America can afford to pay $300 for medication for one illness every month? To some people, that's like their car note, or a good portion of their mortgage, or whatever. It's just very important. So I just want to encourage people over and over again, not to take your access to health care for granted. If it goes away, or even if it is altered, it can make a significant difference to whether or not we are able to live and thrive with this virus, or whether we go into the corners and die simply because we know there's something out there, but we don't have access to it anymore. We have to fight for it every day, relentlessly.
And really, it's a community-wide impact, right?
Yes.
And so, again, for people who are not living with HIV, you want people with the virus to have access to health care, right? You want people to be able to be undetectable, to be healthy, because that keeps us all healthy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you talk again about how the tax reform bill, is related to all of this and why you're getting on the bus?
Oh yeah, because you know the mandate that is in the tax bill that would repeal a certain amount of the Affordable Care Act will put 13 million people out of access to care. 13 million in this country. And so there was a time when our program was going to be cut, and we had to go to our funder and be in the streets with our students and protest. And so from that action, we've learned that in any way to get anything done in America, protest is what works.
Well, there's a saying, direct action gets the goods.
Right, right, right.
Absolutely.
And we had a activist named John Bell who said, "You don't know what your rights are until you fight for your rights." And we named our health center after him, which is that general health center that's open to everybody because of that view. And so we're getting on that bus. We've been on that bus 3 times, and we go into the Senate office building and we say, "Kill the bill." And there've been 3 attempts, and we've been able to stop it. And now we have to go back, and we may have to go back again, but we're going to keep going back. And when the senators hear us with our loud voices in the Rayburn building, and that last vote, when Senator John McCain came back and put his finger down, it's because we were there demonstrating. It's going to be civil disobedience, and people are going to get arrested because they're going to sit down in front and block the senator's office so they can't do any business. Some people are going to be in the chambers if they vote. They're going to be hollering from the galleys, and that's going to be an impact.
I'm going to be reading about you, Jeff. Make sure you're not in jail.
Well, if we get arrested, they have our bail money and they have counsel, and so we just go in the detention center and then we come back out.
That's good to know.
Yes.
But it is important because so many of our programs and services have been under threat for quite some time now, and it is the work of grassroots activists like yourselves who have been in the streets, who have been in the halls of Congress, telling their stories and letting them know the impact that this will have, that has been able to save a lot of these programs.
Right.
And so I want to commend you all for your work. Again, I'm speaking with Jeffrey Haskins, Project Teach instructor, and China White, Project Teach peer educator. They're with Philadelphia Fight, which is a nonprofit organization here in Philly that has been doing amazing work, providing community health services and education, treatment, research, all of the above to people living with HIV and others. And you can find more about their programs and services if you go to their website, fight.org. And the reason why we invited them this week is because of World AIDS Day, which is Friday, December 1st. And your organization is having a prayer breakfast that I would like to invite people to. And that's taking place Friday, December 1st, 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. It's going to be at the Doubletree Hilton in Center City, which is on South Broad and Locust Streets. And they're going to be featuring Bishop Ernest McNear, Jane Scholl, Reverend Dr. Calenthia Dowdy, and the Faith Leaders Network. And everyone is invited to pray and renew their commitment to combating HIV in their communities. So you can RSVP to Chantel Todman Moore at cmore@fight.org. All the information's on their website, fight.org. Can you tell people one more time how they can enroll in Project Teach or get more information?
You can go to our website. The applications are all on our website, and you can just fill it out, and there's a link, and it comes right back to us. Or you can come in our office and fill it out if you're downtown Center City, 1233 Locust Street on the 3rd floor. And then we do take in the applications, have an interview process. We have a very small classroom, so we do 25 to 30 per class, or 15 to 20 for Teach Outside and Women's Teach. And so we do have a lot of people that are like active waiting lists. We have a lot of people that want this classes. And so we are in the process of, it's an exciting department for our education department. Our AIDS library has a national marker and celebrated a 30-year anniversary. And we're turning it into a learning center. We're remodeling it and doing a whole lot of work around after Project Teach. You know, we have the peer education program, we have an outreach workers program, but we want people to stay connected to our services. And we also want them to manage their life. And so we have workforce development. We're starting to work with CareerLink, trying to get people working. Because if we're living with the virus, we're going to live. We're going to live a long time. And, you know, we used to thought we were going to die. And now that we're living, we can plan our lives. We can plan for retirement from work. We can plan for our grandchildren. We can plan for long-term relationships. And we can have a good quality of life. And so we want people ready and able to enjoy the rest of their lives.
Jeffrey and China, can you give out your email addresses or contact information if folks who are listening want to connect with you and get more information?
My email is jhaskins@fight.org.
Okay. My email address is therealchinawhite@gmail. So TheRealChinawhite@gmail.com.
I want to thank both of you for being on our program today and telling your story, and for all the work that you do to support people here in Philadelphia. It was truly inspiring, and I hope people will learn more on World AIDS Day and, you know, be compassionate and be educated and take care of themselves. So thank you both for being on the program.
Thank you for
again
having us.
All right, you've been tuned into the People Power Lunch Hour show here on Philly Cam and WPPM 106.5 FM. We're in the middle of our fall fund drive, so if this type of community educational programming is something that you value and support, we hope that you will make a tax-deductible contribution today on our website at www.phillycam.org. That's going to do it for this edition of the People Power Lunch Hour. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode. You can find this episode and all of our episodes of the People Power Lunch Hour at phillycam.org. And if you want to learn more about making media, taking classes, and telling your story, we urge you to become a member and get involved. Again, all of that information is on our website, phillycam.org. Thanks for listening and watching. I'm Vanessa Maria Graber.